YouTube, Ozzy, the Goat House is back. We've been ranking players lately for the upcoming NFL season. Today, we got the tight ends, top 32 NFL tight ends for this upcoming 2022 season. So with all these ranking videos, I'm predicting how these players will play just this upcoming season. Did receivers, running backs, quarterbacks recently. We're going to keep going on. We'll rank every team starting left tackle next. Then we'll do right tackle. That should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to get to the defensive side of the ball. We got you covered with all the NFL coverage here. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on, follow us on Twitter. We offer super follows now. A lot of you joining, subscribing. Appreciate you very much. Bonus content, bonus rankings as these videos come out. So check it out. I'll be doing future tight end rankings along with this one. Been doing something different with each position group there for our super followers. Here's our Twitter. Some updates on Jimmy Garoppolo, where he could get traded to the Seahawks. Possibly interested. A lot more discussions on there. So check it out. Be much appreciated. So top 32 tight ends for this year. We didn't do every team starter. We just did the top 32 tight ends in general. And it's, again, we're predicting the upcoming season. Ian Thomas at 32. I mean, based off the past, based off last year, he probably wouldn't make the top 32 because he wasn't very productive. But the Panthers gave him an interesting contract. They obviously have big plans for him in this McAdoo system. So could take a step up this year. I mean, Tommy Tremble could take a step up as well, so he might have some company. I threw Taysom Hill in there. We saw him more at quarterback than tight end last year, but they bring in Jameis Winston and when they have Jameis Winston, they bring in Andy Dalton. So Taysom Hill maybe down the depth chart as a quarterback, so maybe we see him a little bit more as a bit of everything, So threw him in there with the tight ends, even though he really isn't specifically anything, but I think he'll be productive. He'll be kind of back to that weapon that he is. Mo Alley Cox at 30. I'm a big Jelani Woods guy. He was my number one tight end in the draft class, so he kind of could at one point kind of be taken over. They could use both, obviously. Two very athletic, solid after-the-catch tight ends there. Conklin, who was coming from Minnesota to the New York Jets, was very productive for the Vikings last year as a receiving threat. He goes to the Jets, and he can be just as productive. It's just a very crowded room over there right now with Uzomah, and they draft Rucker as well. So these Jets guys, they got at least two very solid tight ends. Just how productive will they? Will they be just as productive as their last team because they're splitting? We know there'll be talent on the field for New York. Next, Albert O of the Broncos is a tricky one. I originally had him a little higher because no Noah Fant and Albert O's in there, getting better, young guy from Missouri, obviously, and then Russell Wilson's in there, so Albert O's going to take that big step up. But I'm like, Greg Dulcich could be very solid. I thought about ranking Greg Dulcich in this as well. I could see him, even though Woods was my top tight end prospect pre-draft, I think Dulcich could play like the best rookie tight end this year. So both these guys, I think, are going to be kind of split evenly on production, so tough to rank them high, but they could be pretty solid and productive with Russell Wilson back there. Irv Smith Jr. at 27, another tough one to rank because very athletic, very talented receiving tight end, and we know what he can be. We just haven't really seen it yet, mainly due to injuries. Missed all of last year, so I think it's one of those guys that every year is like, all right, Irv Smith's going to break out this year. All right, Irv Smith's going to break out this year, and it's kind of tough to fully invest in that prediction right now, even though he has the talent. So we'll see. Cameron Brate at 26, kind of taking over that tight end role with Gronk obviously retired. They also have Cade Otton, who could do some damage. I'm very confident about Brate being the guy, though. Evan Engram at 25. Yeah, excited to see him in a new scenery there, new place. Trevor Lawrence is quarterback, so that's an upgrade over Daniel Jones. It felt like every time Daniel Jones threw a good ball, finally, Evan Engram dropped it, but he's still been pretty productive and could step his game up here with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kind of has a one-year trial here to play well for them. So we'll see. I got him at 25. Next, I got Hayden Hurst at 24, kind of taking that Uzomah spot for the Bengals. And, yeah, I mean, maybe it's that system. Maybe it's, Joe Burrow, the talent there. So Hurst I could see a scenario where he's a lot better than 24 because it's just that Bengals system. I do think he's not as good as Uzomah. I think they'll use him for blocking quite a bit, and they'll mainly spread the ball out to their other weapons there. So I'm at 24. Jonnu Smith, who was very underwhelming last year, obviously. Hunter Henry kind of took over as the guy. They had, a guy like Devontae Parker in a receiver unit. They could look to spread the ball out to the receivers as well. So Jonnu Smith has It doesn't really feel like the same as the way the Titans used him, maybe the Titans, Johnny Smith, but he has potential to be a lot better in this. That's why he got his contract. But, yeah, it's tough to fully predict it with the splitting going on there. Noah Fant at 22, probably better in this based on where he played last year, but goes to Seattle. They paid Will Dissly, who just missed the cut of this video, quite a bit of money. So who are they having as their tight end one? Yeah, I think Noah Fant is playing simple better than Will Dissly, so I rank Noah Fant. Very solid after the catch. It's just how much action will he get? So it's extremely tough to rank. Njoku at 21 feels like most people would probably rank him higher. The idea of Njoku, what he can become, it's not one of those guys, that is, and that's why the Browns paid him a lot of money, a very surprising amount of money. What he can become, it just hasn't really shown. I mean, he has some spectacular plays here and there. I just need to see a lot more consistency with him. Was somewhat productive last year, over 400 yards. I mean, a lot more productive tight ends in the league. And again, you have that big time moment, in the red zone. I need to see him put it together, play up to that contract to be better than where I have him ranked. Next, Cole Kmet at 20, so he could take that step up this year. I mean, he had a pretty decent amount of yards last year. You'd like him to get more involved, I guess, in the red zone, the touchdown department, so he could continue to grow because he's a solid young tight end. And another big reason, I guess, why he could be productive receiving yards wise, which really isn't everything when it comes to this list, but the reason he could be productive receiving yards wise is because, the Bears don't have too many options. It's kind of Mooney and Kmet are the top tier options for the Chicago Bears, so it could be pretty productive. CJ Uzomah goes to he had a fantastic year last year. Based off last year, probably much better than 19, right? Kind of a total package type tight end. He goes to the Jets, so going Joe Burrow to Zach Wilson. So that maybe he takes a little bit of hit there, but then splitting with Tyler Conklin, maybe Ruckert as well. So maybe not as productive, but still, I think a top 20 tight end. Maybe somewhat bold. I don't think it's that bold. I think people are probably going to have a problem with this, but 18, I got the Titans' new tight end, Austin Hooper. Again, this is predicting this upcoming year. It's not based off the last couple of years. He hasn't done much of anything at all. But this is that Titans type of tight end. I think he's going to be very productive with the Tennessee Titans. That tight end they've been missing, and they kind of been making some no-name tight ends or close to no-name tight ends look a little bit better. And I'm not considering Jonnu Smith a no-name tight end, but even he looked a lot better on the Titans. But it's a different style tight end. But I think Hooper is going to be very productive on the Tennessee Titans. It's that perfect type of tight end for them. He'll be very productive in the red zone. I think he'll rack up some touchdowns. So better than the Hooper we've been getting here is what I'm predicting. Logan Thomas at 17. I mean, Logan Thomas has potential to be a top 10 tight end because he's he's very productive, in every category. It felt like, especially 2 years ago. Last year injured. So will we get that same, Logan Thomas we got 2 years ago, who was really, really enjoying watching there. 16 gonna go Tyler Higbee. Yeah, somewhat consistent tight end. Obviously, they kind of know what you're going to get from him. Maybe a bigger. We had some bold picks in here, but maybe a little bit bigger because I've seen some rankings, and Robert Tonyan has been at the very bottom or not included in those lists. I think people forget a little bit because he was injured last year. And we are banking on maybe him staying healthy with a top 15 ranking, but was very talented a couple years ago. Has Aaron Rodgers, arguably the best quarterback in football, there with him. They don't have Devontae Adams anymore. I know, different position, but that puts Tonyan up towards the top of the targets list for the Green Bay Packers. I think he'll be a top 15 tight end. I think he'll be very productive. Just got to stay healthy. Maybe a little bit bold prediction here with the 14, Gerald Everett, because he hasn't really been 14. He's been flashy here and there, but going to the Chargers, Justin Herbert, that high-powered passing attack of an offense, they missed a consistent tight end last year. They needed that guy, and now they get a Gerald Everett in there, and I think they have a big plan for him, and they'll be creative with him. So I think he's going to have a fantastic year there with the LA Chargers. Dawson Knox at 13 was a touchdown machine last year. Seems to be growing a connection with Josh Allen more and more. Could catch the ball a little more consistently, would drop some balls you wouldn't expect him to, but he's continuing to get better. Speaking of touchdown machine, Hunter Henry was also a touchdown machine, was fantastic in the red zone, one of the better red zone tight ends in football. He's at 12. Pat Freiermuth at 11 was blown away by his rookie season performance. Another very solid tight end in the red zone. Bright future for him. They bring in Kenny Pickett, who I think will be their starting quarterback. Could be Trubisky. I think it'll be Pickett. But who is very solid in the red zone, very solid throwing in the middle of the field. And that is kind of where Freiermuth comes into play there, being productive. So Freiermuth kind of already, I wouldn't predict that either. Going into last year as a rookie, would I predicted him to be in year 2 this close to top 10? No way. So he's already getting there. So bright future for him. Mike Gesicki at 10. Curious to see how they use him because, I think a tight end can be pretty productive in that Mike McDaniel offense. Usually a more balanced tight end. Gesicki more of a top-tier receiving threat tight end. And they didn't extend him, kind of want to give him that trial on the franchise tag. So very curious to see how they use him. I think he'd be almost as productive here. I know they have more weapons in there. I mean, mainly adding Tyreek Hill, but Cedric Wilson as well. So maybe more targets get spread out a little bit more, but still a top 10 tight end. Dalton Schultz, who maybe a little bit of a struggle with the Cowboys right now, even though it's possible they reach an agreement on extension, but they're in a struggle right now. But I still feel like he's going to play for them. I don't think he's going to sit. He's going to play for them. And had quite a bit of targets last year, did well with that as well. And then maybe more targets could be coming his way because they're maybe down a receiver, without Amari Cooper. So Dalton Schultz at 9 should be another productive year. We'll see if they resolve that issue with the contract extension there. The whole Browns and Njoku thing kind of put these teams and players in a tough spot on what to ask for, what to give out. On to the top 8. TJ Hawkinson at 8. Still got a bright future, a lot of upside. Still kind of waiting for him to be that top 5 tight end. I think he can be. I kind of predicted him maybe to be in the recent past. It was a little bit of more of a shortage on tight ends back then. But yeah, and he's been solid. Maybe expected a little more. It didn't help that he missed some games last year, and for playing 12 games last year, pretty damn productive. So could take a step up this year. It's a tough one though because he's a guy that can continue to grow and be more productive, but maybe the Lions have added some more weapons to give targets to, so could it take targets away? It's a little tricky. Zach Ertz at 7, maybe another one where I'm maybe a little higher on Ertz than other people, perhaps in the same range. But I really liked the way Ertz played and looked when going to the Cardinals. It really looked like he was declining before that. Like we saw him declining rapidly, and it was weird because he was an elite tight end, and in somewhat the recent past. And then he goes to the Cardinals, and he's super productive again. Fits in that Kingsbury offense, the Kyler Murray offense, pretty well, better than expected. So it kind of feels like he's just getting going again. So I think Ertz will be very productive. They have a couple other options at the tight end position there. Drafting McBride, having Max Williams. Neither of them are Ertz, though. They have Ertz there. They paid him for a reason. You won't have Hopkins targets early in the season, so Ertz can get some more targets, perhaps. They did bring in Hollywood Brown, but they lost Kirk, though, as well. So I think Ertz will have his production, for sure. Goddard, speaking of Eagles or former Eagles tight ends, but this one an Eagles tight end. Dallas Goedert was very impressive last year. Big piece of that passing game there. So Goddard on his way up. I got him at 6. Kyle Pitts is definitely on his way up. Number 5 in the second year. We thought maybe he'd be a little more productive in terms of the red zone, getting touchdowns. I think he will be this year. Was very impressive as expected kind of last year all around. And they add Drake London, big-time target at the receiver position, so that could open some things up for Pitts. Not too many teams have corners that can, in DBs, I should say, to body up those big bodies. So somebody's going to be, or both, are going to be doing some damage. So I got Kyle Pitts at 5, probably on his way up even higher in the very near future. And a reminder, we do have super follows available now on Twitter where I'm offering bonus content. And the bonus content going out right now, it happens to be rankings as these videos come out. And I've been doing something different for each position group. And for the tight ends, I thought, let's rank the tight ends of the future, maybe like 5-10 years from now. We know Kyle Pitts got to be up there. We have Freiermuth's got to be up there. And then some guys that are still in school. So I thought, because there's some good prospects coming out either this year or the next year, so I thought that'd be a lot of fun there to do for our super followers. So we've been doing things like that, some trade scenarios on there, and definitely more to come in season. A lot of bonus things, so check it out. Top 4 tight ends, very tough to split these guys up. It's like the receivers. I got to that final page, that final 4 of the receivers. It's like, man, you can kind of argue any of these guys 1 or 2, 3, 4, whatever it may be. I got Darren Waller at 4, who could be that number 1 guy. Adding Devontae Adams, could that open things up for Waller? Could that take away some targets. Yeah, you got to be healthier than he was last year. Even when he was playing, it felt like he wasn't 100%. But very talented tight end, definitely a weapon, definitely a mismatch problem like many of these guys. I got him at 4, though. Kittle at 3, who's so fun to watch, who's absolutely dominant when he's on the field. You want to see him stay fully healthy as well. But he comes in at 3. I thought Mark Andrews is good. Mark Andrews and Kelsey were like 1A, 1B for me last year. They were insane last year. Kelsey always is. Andrews always pretty solid. I actually had Mark Andrews as, if we're not counting the playoffs, the regular season, I actually had Mark Andrews as the best tight end last year in football. I think in general we could agree Kelsey's the guy. No Tyreek Hill in there. You could say more focus on Kelsey. But they had more receivers out there, more options to spread the field kind of horizontally there, from sideline to sideline, I should say. So I think actually adds more for Kelsey. So I'll put him at 1. But Mark Andrews, very impressed with that top guy for the Ravens. Feels like he's getting a lot better every week almost. So very impressed with Mark Andrews. I got him at number 2, just ahead of Kittle and Waller. So that's my top 4. Again, I think, well, if we're talking in general, I think everyone would agree Kelsey's number 1, but I think you can argue with a prediction, even Pitts in there, the top 5 guys that, predicting an upcoming season, you can make the case that any of those guys would be, I don't think anybody's going to put Pitts 1 yet, but you can make the case for any of those guys, a good argument that they could be 1, really. I think most of us, again, would say Kelsey, so maybe 2. Anybody could be number 2, but again, Andrews I thought was insane last year, so it's why I got him in the top 2. I think most people will probably rank him probably the 3 or 4 spot, but yeah, got to go Travis Kelce 1 there. So those are my tight end rankings. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to rip me. I know there's a lot of the people that think this is, for whatever reasons, based off the past, aren't liking the rankings, but that's all right. That's okay. I do something a little different here. I'm not trying to be different. I'm kind of just mainly focused on this upcoming year because that's all we care about right now. I'm not in the past mode, So that's how I do these rankings. A lot more to come. So join us, like, subscribe to Notifications on, follow us on Twitter. Link down below for that at GoodHouse NFL. We much appreciate it. It's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.